Hi everybody, I hope you're doing marvelously well. I hope you enjoyed that. I don't often sing for obvious reasons, but we were going to do this video and we reached out to Casey and Mikhail and both of them were otherwise engaged. So I said to Eric, who can we get to sing? And we were like, maybe I should sing. Anyway, this is the unit. It is the Volt 476p USB audio interface. So basically, when I reviewed the Volt before, my overriding feeling was this is a unit that's designed for someone who wants to record in a quote unquote old school way, meaning they love the sound of colored pre's going into compression. And as you know, these pre's are designed to have a sound. It's not the most transparent thing ever. It's not supposed to be. I mean, look, it even looks like a piece of 70s stereo equipment. And for those of you that know what I'm talking about Quad, the company Quad. It so looks like a piece of Quad hi-fi. And after I said that last time, I went online and started looking at researching Quad stuff, because that's the kind of silliness I do. And one of my good friends, Jerry, God rest his soul, had an amazing Quad hi-fi. And so it brought back some fun memories. Okay, so I'm getting out of the box, at least I'm trying not to rip the box open. And you know, the thing about UAD is they have the pedigree, don't they? So many gear manufacturers, you know, are known for certain things. If there's one thing that UA is known for, it's known for 1176s, 610s, and of course, now they're known for incredible plug-in emulations of the equipment that they made. All right, so I do like the packaging. Oh, look at that. There it is. It looks just like a piece of 70s hi-fi. How much more than a piece of 70s hi-fi can this get? I'm not complaining. Oh, wow, that's it. Super nifty. Now, this is really funny because you know I'm doing an intro and unboxing this before I've even made the recording, but you've already watched the recording, so it's completely backwards. But you know, it's back asswards, but that's the way we do things here. All right, so let's check it out. What do we have here? We have a MIDI in and out, which actually a lot of people on the cheaper interfaces complain that they don't have. So here you go, MIDI in and out. Monitor left and right output here, but it's also got 4 line outputs, so that's interesting. So you could use this going into a patch bay and do all kinds of stuff. You could even go into an analog mixer or a summing unit if you so wanted. There's our USB-C input. There's our power supply. Okay, on the front, that's nice. Small touch, but important. 2 headphones. So obviously I can send one to the singer, which was me, and one to the engineer, which was me. Actually, Eric will probably set level while I go wah, 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 wah. Sample that if you dare. That would be embarrassing. Not for me, for the person sampling it. Okay, so there's an XLR / 1/4-inch input. You know the business. Okay, so it looks like if you set it to instrument, it will change the line level. I remember on like the old Focusrite units for years, everybody used to complain that the line and instrument levels, it was either or, wasn't it? I can't remember what the problem was. I think it was for line inputs for keys, it was okay, but for guitars, it was super low. So obviously that's an impedance switch there. So XLR, 1/4-inch, Phantom, 48 volts. Okay, so if you're running ribbon mics, you won't want to do this. Of course, it is, as you can tell, a 4-input unit. So it means I'm going to be able to do kick, snare, and overheads on the drums. So that's lovely. Okay, we got 4 gain controls here for our mic pre's. We have the 1176 style compressor. And I remember there was different settings for, you know, for vocal, guitar, or fast attack and release, I presume. Oh, and then the vintage sound. So you could turn on the vintage and choose what you wanted to basically probably sound a little thicker, maybe some saturation, some analogy thickness, as some people used to call warm. I don't think anybody says that anymore now because it's become so embarrassing. But yes, you know, basically where you get like the sound of transformers, which tend to add a little bit of additional low in there, and seemingly, goodness knows, but seemingly round off some transients. So That's a nice feature. So we'll use some selection. We'll do with and without the vintage. So when you download the Multitracks down below, you can choose what you want to do. Okay, you got monitor source in 3412, out 3412. So okay, so I can select how I want to listen. So I'm probably going to want to listen to like 1 and 2. I've got an output selection there, so that would be down there. Yeah, there's your inputs, there's your outputs. For cables we have, power supply, little power supply with the word volt on it. So that actually is quite useful. Eric's nodding. Because you know when you've got like 50 power supplies plugged in and you've got all the cables, you're trying to find out which one it is, and you don't really want to unplug something by mistake and depower everything and blow up the speakers or whatever. There it is. Oh, adapters for said power supply, depending on which country you're in. So it must be some kind of switching power supply. So you just change the adapter. I see we have everything. Do we have Britain? Yeah, we do. Yep, there it is. There we have Britain, Angleterre, there it is. United Kingdom. So you can plug that on. So that's nifty. So it means I could take this. Okay, so one of the things I felt that I said when I first used this, as I said, this is probably for an old school musician who wants coloration, who wants to be able to plug their guitar in and just get a sound that they know and love. I also said it would be really good for guys like me who are traveling, who want that kind of sound. Well, not so much since the old damn pandemic, but in 2019, for instance, I was abroad 13 times in 1 year. Went to France a bunch of times, United Kingdom a bunch of times, Germany a couple of times, Austria, Rome, Italy, obviously, Poland, China. We went to Music China. And then, of course, we traveled in America a bunch, AES in New York, and all kinds of stuff. So you get my point. This here is going to be very useful for me. Excellent. Okay, so I've got my trusted Yamaha Revstar. I don't own a Rickenbacker. I don't own any Gretschers or anything like that. I should have looked in Jerry's book to find out what guitar was being played. You know what? Let's do it now. Okay, so I think it's in book 2. So let's go to the back. Backing vocal track, Lennon on guitar, lead vocals, McCartney on bass, backing vocals, Harrison on 12-string guitar. Now, I don't have a 12-string. What I'm going to do is I'm going to play it on my Revstar, and then I'm going to get my Pacifica, and we've strung it up with Nashville strings, so I'll double the part on that, and that will give us a 12-string sound. So it looks like it's 2 guitars, bass, drums. I think I can manage that. Electric guitar amplification. Wow, the electric guitar was recorded with a U48 or a U47. That's insane. Absolutely insane. Wow. So they're putting what's now $30,000 microphones in front of it. The drums was a D19 with a D20. So I actually have a D19 on the drums, so we could try that. I want to put 4 mics on the drum kit, though. I'm sorry, I'm going to cheat because we have 4 inputs, and that's the best opportunity to try it out. And then it's got other U47, U48. I mean, I have a D19, I have a D12, an original D12, D19, and of course I have a U47. So I could do it like that. We also have the emulations, the Townsend, which of course are owned by UA. So we could have some fun with that as well. And my kit is a Ringo kit. It is the same dimensions as Ringo's kit. All right, so what I thought I would do is play the guitar part here. So we got a... I'm going through the Fender Deluxe Reverb, but it's the Tone Master, so it's just freaking awesome and easy to use. I'm printing the DI, so you can take the DI. I'm going to go and let's put on the compressor. I'm going to set it to guitar. Wow, that really pushes it forward. It's like, let's go to vintage. Without the vintage in. It definitely adds some oomph, like thickness. So listen for when I push the button in, you'll just hear this little extra low end added. It also seems to be actually smoothing off the top end. So there you go. So I've got it on vintage and I've got the compressor set to guitar. I don't know how it specs out. I haven't read the specs. I don't know if that's super clean or whatever, but I do know it sounds good and I'm not getting any latency. If there is latency there, I'm not noticing it. Now on the guitar, I've pulled out this control on the tone, which thins it out slightly, because here's without. Pull it out. It's a little bit more mid-rangey. I do have reverb and I have a really light delay on it, which is an echo tone, which they would never have had. They wouldn't have put a tape delay on it or any kind of delay on it. But, you know, I'm not trying to reproduce this exactly the same. I'm just trying to get a good sound. This is great. So let's try it. So this is tuned as a Nashville tuning. So I've got normal E, normal B, which I'm tuning up, octave G, so it's like the high strings of a 12 string, octave D, octave A, and octave E. So this is really just creating the first guitar, because the first guitar would have been George Harrison's 12 string. So I've got my older Revstar here. This is the previous inexpensive one they made. Oh, why am I playing this D shape? Because whenever I've watched John Lennon play a D major, he always played this shape. He never played this. He always played this. So I'm assuming if John Lennon's playing rhythm, that's the shape he's playing. I even saw George in the Get Back movie playing that same shape as well. So I could be wrong. I probably am, but that's why I'm doing it. Middle position. That compression's pretty gorgeous. Take the vintage off. It's subtle what it's doing, but I like it. Okay, so I'm going to do a vocal. Don't laugh. I certainly am no John Lennon and surely neither Paul McCartney either, so not a Beatle. As you can tell, we're going to use the sphere. So at the moment, you're probably hearing me talking through this, but we'll talk through this as well. Now, this is the Townsend Sphere, which is now, I'm sure you know, or if you don't, owned by UA. They now do these mics. So really happy to be using it. And I think I'm going to probably do a 47 clone or a 48 because that's what the Beatles used. They would have, when John and Paul were singing together, they would have used a 48 in figure of 8, and John would have been on one side and Paul on the other. EQing afterwards, 1, 2, 2, 2, 2. So that's the 47, the LD47K. She's got a ticket to ride. I think I just like that. Yeah. Mary had a little lamb, her fleece was white as snow, and everywhere that Mary went, Oh, it's interesting, I'm turning it on and off. So this is without it on, without the processing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, once I caught a fish alive, and it just softens up ever so slightly when I've turned it on, and then I turn it off, and it just... But you know what? I think it's off, put it back on again. I think what people love about the Sphere in particular is it's just... I think there's a lot of these modelling mics, and there's a couple I use all the time, as you know, but I think the mic itself is just a little bit more like... feels a little bit more expensive. I mean, that's the main thing that people say, is that they feel like the mic itself, when flat, like with disabled, with the effect disabled, it's still a good sounding microphone. Bring it back in, and it's just a little warmer, gets rid of some of the mid-range. All right, enough waffling on. Let's record the Sphere. Okay, so, love this bass. This is the cheapest one. I think I I think it was on sale at Sweetwater for $299. It's the budget version. And to be honest, it was never a really expensive bass, so I was kind of happy to get the cheapest one. I'm going to listen to the DI first. Here's the DI. Put on the vintage setting. Wow, on the guitar. Okay, so I turned the back pickup down, the bridge pickup down a little bit, but have them both going. I think that's what's going to work. Do the same thing on the amp. Definitely brought up the noise. Yeah, I mean, like I said, this was $299. I think even now, probably not on sale, it's probably no more than like $400. So, you know, it's a cheap instrument, but I love it. You can enter to win one of these lovely vaults. Just click on the link down below and you can enter to win one of these lovely vaults. So let's mix this baby. You got to hear my sweet dulcet tones. Yes, okay, I'm not a singer. But what I'm giving you here is I've got the uncompressed and the compressed version. So you can blend them together. You can make it a double all the way through, which is what I'm going to do because I don't have a particularly full, strong voice. Obviously, Lennon and McCartney singing together was second to none. Warren singing together is more like none. As you can probably tell, we're in the new room. And we've got some UAD plugins loaded up. What is interesting and important to remember is when the Beatles were recording songs like this, they were using what by today's standards would be called quite primitive equipment, meaning they had things like treble and bass for EQ. They didn't have graphical EQ, certainly didn't have parametric or semi-parametric or any of the kinds of EQs that we have these days. So, and compression was pretty limited in attack and release times. There was some variation, but technically speaking, we are so much more advanced. No gating, you know, it was pretty much recording credible performances. So I don't want to go too crazy on the mix. I'll probably do a couple of little things, like a little bit more low end on the kick than would have been available in those days, basically because things were mixed, you know, and mastered, most importantly, to go to vinyl. So you couldn't have like 40 hertz subbiness or 20 hertz subbiness or anything like that because the stylus, the needle, would just jump out of the record. Listening to a lot of those records of the time, the bandwidth is quite narrow. It's not high highs or low lows. It's just a little bit more controlled. So I'm going to maybe add a little bit more lows here, a little bit more highs there, but I'm not going to go crazy. So let's just do some minimal things. And the mix you will have heard at the beginning is just this mix. So I'm going to go to the drums, solo the drums. Put a bit of verb on the snare because Fernando's room was really dead and dry, which is perfectly fine, but a little bit of ambience wouldn't hurt. Now, we're in the UAD world. We're reviewing the Vault. So let's try some UAD stuff out. So I'm going to go and grab a UAD reverb. Capitol Chambers. It's not Abbey Road, but it is the American equivalent, as it were. You know, Capitol Records was the home of the Beatles, and Capitol Studios was part of Capitol Records, and of course EMI Studios was Abbey Road, or it became Abbey Road. So let's go with that. these different mics. RCA 44. No, I'm already liking it. Just bring it down. Now, in the days of tape, when you were bouncing multiple tracks together, inherently, when you bounce tracks together, the high end would disappear. Well, not disappear, it would be reduced. So what everybody did was boost the high end. Let's get that snare a bit brighter. Let's see what EQ we can find. Look at that. We're gonna have some fun with that. Presence, 1, 2, and treble. That's 3.6K, 10K default. Maybe a bit of body on the snare, maybe the 150. Here's the snare on its own. Wow. It's very musical. So it looks like it's only 5 dB increments, which is probably all they had, because this is obviously EMI. It's Chandler. .5. So much higher EQ points. Bypassing it. Back on. Love it. Okay, great. I'm very tempted to just use that on the kick as well. Now, there's a bit more attack and click than I think Ringo would have ever used. Definitely of that period. Now, whether they had it, they would have probably used Outtake stuff, but let's go to the kick. Let's boost some 60. Nice. I don't know if I'm going to do much to the top, maybe. Do I need that much attack? If it's an old school track, maybe not. Let's narrow the bandwidth on the high mids. Bypassed. After. Snare verb. Overhead. Now the overheads also have the tom information as well. So I'm a little tempted to just use a bit of compression on all of this because, you know, this was all originally recorded with a lot of tape, a lot of bouncing, and a lot of rounding off the transients, which obviously, even though the lovely Vault did add some compression and stuff, and the mic pre's do have coloration, Eric went to Fernando and recorded this drums and didn't use the compression setting. So this is the zero compression version. Now, what's interesting about it is this, it definitely brings up a lot of the ambience. It's grabbing it pretty dramatically. Let's bring in the sidechain so we let the low end go through. Pretty fantastic. I've got to be honest, I like that. Let's hear it, snare. I'm very tempted to just copy this down. So we're going pretty EMI-tastic. We've got the curve bender followed by the Zen limiter on the snare now. Really adding to the snap. bring the overheads. And on the capital reverb, I'm gonna, oh, the mix should be set to 100%. It wasn't. Let's bring the decay down. Oh. Throw up the bass. Cool, I'm digging this. I was about to go to bass, but I'm listening to these drums. There's quite a lot of attack on that kick already. And I know I was boosting it. So I'm actually taking that boost off. Don't need that at all. I'm actually increasing the overall. Off. Great.
For this recording, we just used a D112 on the kick, which is actually one of my oldest microphones. I've had that for about 25 years. And simple SM57 on the snare drum. And for the overheads is one of my secret weapons is the NT4 by Rode, which is a stereo mic, which is fantastic. And another little tidbit is that this drum kit is a Gretsch drum kit that was on the road with Hall & Oates back in the 70s. It was owned by a guy named Eddie Zine, who was the drummer in my band Dreaming in Stereo. And he passed away a few years ago. And his wife let me inherit his drums, and these are the drums that he used with Hall & Oates from 75 to 77, and you could see them in any performances of Hall & Oates in the 70s that are online from Musikladen in Germany.
Cool. So we're up to the bass. Now, as is typical with me, the bass DI is where I want all the low end to come from. Now, it's quite likely they would have either used A, a DI, or B, an amp. I think maybe later on I'd have to ask either Clay Blair, of course, the great Jerry Hammock, as to what they exactly did, but they probably would just use an amp. But we have the benefit of a DI as well, so when you download, you can mess with that. So I'm going to cheat. I'm actually going to use an API. 560. And just go here and shape. So a little tiny cut at the 63. Nice big boost at 125. And then 1K. Cut all this stuff here. So I've cut a little bit of 31. A little bit of 61, boosted the 125, left the 250 where it is, and then cut 500 all the way up to 16K. Now what we can do is we can just copy this down onto the amp and do the reverse. So let's just bring 4 up, 2, I don't need so much of the 4. 500. Put the 2 together. So now what I've got is I've got the articulation, the character, I suppose, coming from the amp, and the DI is giving me all the lows. Listening to those overheads. Those overheads, I think I want to also grab the API, 560, and just pull out some low mids at about 250. Maybe give it a little bit of 125 for the toms. Maybe a little bit of 500. That's for the toms. So I've decided on the guitar on the 12 string, which of course is not a 12 string, it's just a regular guitar with a high strung overdub. I have decided to keep it as it is. I don't really feel like I need to add anything to it. I could do a little bit of high passing, but I'm sort of fine, to be honest. Now let's listen to my vocal. Now, what we did on the vocal is we have the compressed take and the uncompressed take to create the double. My tambourine's quite loud. It could probably do with a little bit of compression. I mean, the one great thing about tape is it really did round off those transients really nicely. So let's go and grab some kind of compressor. So for the vocals, I have a compressed version where we're using the 1176 built in here, and then one uncompressed. And I'm putting those both together and giving us a double. The compressed backgrounds is compressed really heavily. So let's go to our old favorite, the EQP1A, and this is in the UADX, which is their native version. So it's defaulted to 8K, which is actually quite useful.
I think I'm gonna be sad. I think it's today. Yeah. The girl that's driving me mad.
I think frankly, I'm just going to grab an 1176. So if you remember, an 1176 is a fixed threshold compressor, which means wherever you fix it, you turn it up, and then the signal compresses from there. So when you're on a 2-to-1 ratio, it takes 2 dB over to let 1 dB through. If you go to 20-to-1, it's 20 dB over before even 1 dB sneaks through. So typically, some people say 10-to-1 or 12-to-1 is limiting. For me, it's 20-to-1. But this is a blue stripe, very nice. Got it on 4-to-1.
I think I'm gonna be sad. I think it's today. Yeah.
Now, if you know 1176s, they're backwards. So the largest number is actually the quickest time. So if I go all the way to the right, that's the quickest release time.
I think I'm gonna be sad. I think it's today. Yeah.
Put it on the other one as well.
The girl that's driving me mad is going away. She's got a ticket to ride. She's got a ticket to ride. She's got a ticket to ride. She don't care.
So as she ends up as being triple tracked in the chorus, which wasn't the original one. In the original version, it's John with Paul doing a harmony and then doubling up in the chorus with both of them singing together, except for the last line, which is a harmony. Here I've got double of me singing the verses with the harmony coming in and then tripling up the choruses. And the reason for that is, quite frankly, is I'm not as good a singer. Go figure. I am not either John Lennon or Paul McCartney. So we're just going to, play to your strengths, or in this instance, away from your weaknesses. As you can see, it's a fairly simple mix, but really that's all they would have had in those days. They didn't have, like, as we talked about earlier, semi-parametric or parametric EQs or graphics or all this kind of stuff and all kinds of cleverness, and definitely not dynamic EQs and multiband compressors. So I'm happy to keep it simple. Our little lead bits here, use the LM76 again. Kick's quite aggressive in the 1K because it's a modern kick, and literally pull down some 1K.
I think I'm gonna be sad. I think it's today. The girl that's driving me mad is going away. She's got a ticket to ride. She's got a ticket to ride.
Seem to remember there being a AKG spring reverb. I'd like to put that on the lead guitar. I really do love the UAD stuff because we're trying to get something that sounds, organic and authentic. We haven't used any tape stuff yet. So I suppose if we got enough processing power left, why don't we look about sticking a tape across it?
I don't know why she's riding so high. She ought to think twice, she ought to do right by me before she gets to saying goodbye. She ought to think twice, she ought to do right by me.
A lot of fun. I kept it super simple. I got the ATR 102 on the mix bus. It was pretty much an industry standard for decades. Obviously, back in those days, they would have been mixing to something else like the J37, something Studerish or something like that. But, this is perfect for me. A 102, like I said, if you've got UAD plugins, you could go in there and do V76s, Telefunkens on stuff. You could have more fun with the Chandlers and all kinds of other things. But we're keeping this pretty simple. I don't think it deserves, or needs, I should say, to have a lot more work done to it. I think it's more about the recording quality itself. I think I could probably get in there and use a lot of tape emulations. But really, I wanted to show off what the Volt was doing, because of course the Volt does have those pre's, which gives you more of a quote-unquote vintage sound, and it has a LM76 built into it, and we're using it on most of the stuff here. So I wanted you to hear that. But as ever, download the Multitracks yourself. For me, if you are somebody that loves vintage sounding equipment and just wants a unit that they can use anywhere, the Volt is that. I don't think it's, maybe there's a lot of like young EDM kids using it. Maybe there is, because they want to hear what compression does. They want to hear vintage stuff. But the person that's going to, but the main person I think it's going to appeal to for me is me. Is guys like me that want to create those kinds of sounds. On the market, there's a lot of really good things, and they serve different people in different ways. For me, if you want a vintage sounding unit and you want pre's that sound older, as it were, have a coloration to them, have a little bit of saturation to them, like we did on that backgrounds, you really went for it and destroyed them, but in a good way, this is going to be a unit for you. You're not going to do this with anybody else's mic pre's. If you drive them hard, they're just going to go into horrible digital clipping. But that's okay, because they're there to print really super clean things. This is not designed to do that. You can use it without, of course, those factors, but that's the main reason why somebody is going to buy it. They're going to buy it for the fact that it's a UA piece of equipment. It's a UA piece of equipment that is giving you color associated with all these beautiful pieces of UA equipment that we've been auditioning here. Anyway, hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget, of course, you can enter to win one down below. Enter down below. Hope you enjoy that. Download the Multitracks. Mix it any way you like. You can go even more crazy on the mix if you like than I did. Whatever works for you. Have a marvelous time recording and mixing, and I'll speak to you all again soon. So long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, au revoir, adios, toutes zines, ciao, goodbye.